But can I
Oh
ask
yeah, go
a
ahead.
couple
Go ahead.
questions?
Go ahead.
I was waiting for everyone else. Just a couple, just to start off, there's kind of this movement right now to go to parking maximums instead of parking minimums. And I just kind of wondered why, what was the thought process with sticking with this range as opposed to just a parking maximum?
So we had talked, well, we have a maximum because the 1.5 would be the maximum, generally, unless you asked for a parking modification. So we had talked about potentially lowering the 1.5 to something lower. We feel like the range would allow for most developments are pretty happy within that plus or minus 10% of the range. We don't get very many asking for something different unless it is associated with sometimes an affordable housing project might ask for a reduction in parking. If they're doing like a mixed use development where they have some commercial and residential, they often want to have some sort of considerations for that shared parking space. If they're on a really good transit route, sometimes they are more comfortable on that lower end of the range. It kind of varies. We also have developers who want more parking, and so they would love it if it was 2 for apartments. And so we're still trying to kind of meet in the middle and satisfy most people in that range. It doesn't necessarily have to have a minimum or a maximum. We definitely want to keep a maximum. Whether or not 1.5 is the magic number, I'm not sure. It feels comfortable because that's what we're used to. But we would also like to see less space dedicated to parking, especially surface parking. Surface parking is the least expensive to build, but it's also pretty land consumptive. And we would like to see that area utilized for more housing, or perhaps it doesn't necessarily have to be housing. It doesn't mean that these would all, increase housing by 10% or something like that. It could just be that they have more open space or amenities on site, but the intention is to try to make it easier and less expensive to build housing. And so that's the primary thing we're getting at. The range isn't necessarily, this magic bullet, but we really felt like between what all of the provisions were in our code, keeping that range between 0.75, which is a new number for us, really. We've only had that on the books for maybe 2 years at the most, maybe 18 months. So maybe keeping it at that 0.75 to 1.5 after talking with the current planners and the projects that they've been working with felt fairly comfortable. Just based off of what they've been hearing about some wanting more parking, most wanting slightly less. Than a lot of people feel comfortable with 1 space per unit, but I didn't really answer your question, but we talked about a lot of different things, and this is sort of where we settled.